Thank you, Nageshankar, for the great introduction. Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time to come here and join despite your busy schedule to talk to the Ordia American high school, college, and postgrad graduates. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. As you said, a bit tied up with work, but I think it's always just nice. It's just pleasant to come back to our community and speak with all of you. So I would always make time for this. If you guys need me any other time, I'm happy to hop in.
Appreciate that. And I guess tied to that, I know you just mentioned this is like your community as well. We share very similar childhoods, geographically, actually, even because we both grew up in India until we were 5 or 6, moved to the US. And my understanding is you moved directly to Chicago. Is that right? Was that your move?
Yeah, it was a massive culture shock for us because we moved from Bhubaneswar, like Barampur, Bhubaneswar, straight to downtown Chicago, not even the suburbs. So I grew up in the middle of one of the biggest cities in America, having come from, just a city in India, but that to Bhubaneswar, I think is just such a big change. But yeah, it was a direct switch into this life.
And how was it? I mean, were you able to, did it take some time to adjust, or I guess tied to that?
According to my parents, I was not happy at all. So 6-year-old me didn't speak English, and I was really worried about how that would end up for me. I think I was just really scared. I was a very, very little kid. Yeah. So it wasn't exciting to me. It was mostly just like I was very afraid and I didn't understand why we were doing this.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess at what point did it feel like maybe I'm is home now as well? I mean, do you have any fond memories that you look back at? And I see your cat in the background.
I have, so you're saying fond memories of when I first moved to Chicago?
Yeah, something that made it feel like, okay, yeah, this is home, that you look back and you're like, okay, yeah, I've kind of situated into something that seems normal at this point.
I mean, it's so funny, but it didn't really make me feel like it was home. I was like, guys, America's amazing. Powdered cheese turns into liquid here. So for me, it was like the convenience of American life. It doesn't take long for a 6-year-old kid to be like dazzled and feel like every day is going to an amusement park. Every day is full of new things. And I think just, America in 2000 was such a very simple and sweet existence. And that too, growing up in a big city, I think I was just too enamored by this new life to even notice that transition. I adjusted very quickly. I think within 2 months, I was out of ESL. I had learned English fluently, or more so than some of the students in our class, because I was just so eager to be part of this world and eat mac and cheese. It's like, that's my reward.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you try Chicago deep dish at that time, like when you were that young? Or did you?
Yes, I think my dad is a big Epicurean, so he used to always bring home a bunch of different things that we were trying out, but I don't think anyone liked deep dish. I think that's most Chicagoans. We're very like, we're the only people who don't like deep dish, and the rest of the country does.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I think I feel like my husband and I, the only reason we will go to Chicago is because of deep dish. Friends too, but but I think most of them say the same thing, where they're like, deep dish.
It's a lasagna, guys. It's not pizza.
So tell me a little bit more about your high school. What was your favorite subject? Did you know what you wanted to do when you grew up?
I think my favorite and best subject was always English, which is so ironic given my upbringing and initially the fear that I had. But I excelled very quickly at English from a very early age. And just because I think it appealed to my creative brain. So I was always really interested in writing and storytelling and talking and communicating ideas. So from a very young age, English was always my strong suit. It carried on in high school, it carried on in college as well. So definitely English, public speaking, that kind of stuff was my forte.
That's awesome. So what you're saying is you're a natural with all of this. I guess tied to that, I think it's an Indian stereotype to put more respect on engineering or medical careers. At least it was when we were younger. Was that something that you faced as well, or did you always have music in the back of your mind as something that you wanted to pursue?
Our upbringing was a little interesting because my mother has a PhD in English and my dad has a master's in English as well. So you would think that this would be a household where we would be, much more open to trying out new things. But I think part of the reason we want our children to do things like the sciences and, finance, all these things is because it's a picture of stability that we see. And it's totally fair, especially if you're a new immigrant family, to want your kids to have a stable life. And you see in them a possibility to get out of, especially if you're coming from like not the highest socioeconomic background. I think a lot of my school peers who were Indian American had humble beginnings as immigrants in America. So it made complete sense that their parents wanted them to have stable financial lives. So they would pursue engineering, being doctors, finance, things like that. But even in our household, we had the same expectation, is like, at least give it a shot. But I was lucky that my parents recognized my creative side from day one. When I was 4 years old, I started singing. I definitely had some level of ADHD, so I was very bad at like paying attention in all of my music courses. So all of my teachers and even eventually my parents realized that they should just let me pursue music as a solo hobby. So I taught myself, and they were very, very open to me continuing to pursue this. And partially because of their belief in my ability and their ability to nurture that creativity, and partially because of me being very like much a self-starter. I think that when the two things combined, it was a really natural fit that I started making music and posting things online, and they never stopped me. So I had the best of both worlds. I had parents who really expected us to do well in school and have a stable life, but I also had the freedom and flexibility to pursue what I wanted, which is, I mean, the best way it could turn out.
Yeah, it's striking that you share that, Lisa, actually, because I think we always hear growing up that we need to be disciplined, we need to be focused, but in reality, there's many different ways that you can be disciplined and focused. And in your case, it sounds like being given that opportunity to be self-motivated gave you that sense of creativity and self-start and pursuing things that you want to pursue.
Totally, because then my discipline is, I have to be answerable to myself. If I wake up and I'm not happy with something I've made musically, I have to have that conversation and check in with myself that I can push myself more.
Yeah.
So in it, there's obviously unique challenges, but it's also, for me, it was really great to have this level of freedom and not feel like burdened by expectation, especially for a passion versus school. Like, of course, there's a certain level of expectation because that's in every parent for their child with schooling, but they never put this pressure on me to be a perfectionist. I did. So that's great. I mean, it worked out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's spot on. And I guess tied to this theme about discipline and dedication, one of the things when we first met is that you highlighted that arts aren't as glamorous as it seems, right? So tied to that also is many of the OSA kids and many Orias in general, right? They're pushed to try arts, to try dance, to try to flex that creative side of their brain. Do you have any tips for them on practice, or would you suggest getting formal training, or what would you suggest as a way for them to pursue it beyond just a hobby?
I think there's really two paths you can take here. And if you're interested more in fundamentals and theory and understanding the hows and whats of an art, take the lessons. They're going to do you a lot of good. And in the future, they're going to set you up for a lot more success. It'll be easier, essentially, for you later on, just because you've mastered the fundamentals. The other side of it is someone like me who's self-taught. You need to create a level of discipline for yourself. You need to know your boundaries of, if I'm doing this today, I don't get to have fun and, mess around with my schedule tomorrow. Because without formal training, there's nobody there to check in on progress if you're excelling or if you're doing better. So if you're going to take a path of being self-taught in the arts, I recommend some sort of a disciplined schedule. That's up to you to figure it out. Like for me as a singer, simply because I always had the option, but I wasn't very good at following instruction in my musical learnings in my classes. So for me, what I would do was I would play one song again and again and perfect every single note of it until, and my challenge was to sing it better than the person who made it. And like, sometimes that would mean that I would put on a song by Beyonce and listen to it 300 times. So I knew every movement and every note to absolute perfection. And if I didn't make that happen, then I would consider it like just shy of being where I wanted to be. So I had to like create like games and challenges for myself to feel motivated and continue learning. And that works for people like me. And I know that can also just be, that sounds awful for, I'm sure, a lot of people who are sitting here too. They're like, no, I would just take the lessons. So I think it's just based on your personality. If it doesn't click with you and it keeps not clicking with you to pursue classes and formal training, I don't recommend it. I don't think pushing your kids in a direction that they are obviously not interested in going in is going to do any good in the long run.
Yeah, spot on. Really great advice, and interesting way to challenge yourself to be better than Beyonce. I'm sure that takes some time.
I didn't quite make that happen, but we're still working on it. It's a lifelong challenge.
Yeah. Okay, I guess maybe we can talk a little bit more about your journey. I know we all know the story of how you went from Chicago to Bollywood and Bombay. But speaking personally as someone who's stuck in the corporate grind, I'm really amazed that you decided to move to India to pursue a career in music. How did you make that decision? And was it definitive in your mind? Like, did you know from the start?
I honestly never thought of pursuing this professionally because I always saw making music and posting videos online as something fun I was doing. And before I got, discovered and the NYNJPA happened or anything like that, anyways, there was a critical mass of 100,000 people on YouTube that were already subscribed to me that had just been built over the years. So I started making videos when I was 13 years old, which was in 2007. And I wasn't allowed to post videos. My mom and dad were like, no videos, you can post your voice, you can put like, a slideshow or of text and your voice can be there. But they were very protective of me. Like obviously parents would be, if a kid so young wants to expose themselves on the internet, it's a scary place. And in the early days of YouTube, it was even like less regulated. So really anything could happen. People could have direct access to you. So they were very good about guarding and protecting me from those things. And then as I grew and as I started getting more and more people that were watching and following along, it just motivated me to keep making more videos, but I never saw this as a career option. And sometimes it takes like the aha moment really has to happen at you. And many times in my life, career offers had been made. I'd been told to come to India to be a singer and do this or that. But when a moment like what happened with me happens, you really aren't given much of an option. You're like, either you do it or, say goodbye to that dream, because something like that won't happen twice. Getting discovered at the level, that I was in that moment doesn't come around twice. So I had a very obvious choice to make, which actually was really difficult because at the same week, I was in my last round of interviews for a really high paying job in analytics at Uber. So I had two very important choices in my hands. Like either you do this, this job that offers a lot of stability and you carve out a career in tech, or you pursue this pipe dream that you have no understanding of in a foreign country and see what happens. And I mean, I will credit myself in saying that, I'm glad I took that risk. And I know not many people would. There's an obvious reason you wouldn't. It's a scary, new, uncharted path. No one in my family on either side has pursued the arts, let alone done something at this scale. So I had no one to ask for advice. I had no understanding of how this would turn out, because once I ended up in Bombay, I would really be on my own. We have no relatives here. There was no industry support. It wasn't a red carpet rollout for me. I would be starting from day zero. I would have to figure it out and see if I land. So I told myself, I'm going to give myself 6 months. And I did a very smart Indian child thing, which was I gave myself 6 months of moving to India to pursue music and simultaneously doing an internship at my friend's company in Bombay. to help build their data infrastructure. So there wouldn't be a gap in my resume. And it's like, I can do both. I can scope out what the possibility is for me to pursue this, at the same time, also not leave a giant chunk of time empty on my resume in case I don't like it. It's not in case it didn't work out. That's not up to me. That's up to the audience. You have to like it. You can't move across the world at 23, 24 and be miserable. So if I wasn't vibing with this decision, I at least had the option of going back and saying, look, I didn't stop working. I just took an interesting detour and now I'm back and we can, open up the conversation for me at Uber, or I can reach out to the same people again. So that's how I did it. And like, kudos to my parents. My upbringing has always been that chase your dreams, but have a fallback option, be practical, have a safety net, because, you only get to do these things once and you only get to screw up once also. So if you're going to screw up, have a fallback option.
Yeah, it's a really, again, really good advice, just like listening to you. And I'm hoping the graduates also are taking the same types of tidbits that might help them in the future as well. You tell the story very nicely, Lisa, but I'm sure it was so challenging, right? To find that fallback in Bombay of all places, even though, you knew the person, and to also be at the same time pursuing music in a completely different industry than you've been used to, where you do have a lot of folks who I'm sure are giving you direction when you are a self-starter and independent person to push forward. So just honestly, kudos to you for pushing through with all of that. Some of your latest social media posts talk about dealing with anxiety and depression, which I'm sure was tied to a lot of these things. And this is a topic that has really come to the forefront of a lot of parents' mind, especially post-pandemic. I was wondering if you're comfortable sharing a little bit more about this, or even if you have, tied to the general theme of advice, any suggestions you might have for teenagers, college students, or really anyone who's going through a similar situation.
Absolutely. I'll just start off by saying I'm really glad we're addressing this topic openly, because I know for not just in our community, but the world at large, these are things that were often taboo until about 5-10 years ago. And especially in our community, I hadn't seen this level of openness and willingness to talk about mental health issues until really Gen Z and this generation. I'm really glad we can offer our advice and support. I'm really glad that the parents are there to, listen and aid as well. So yay, go us for having this conversation. The obvious thing is, when you are as young as I was moving here, it is a very uncomfortable transition after the initial 6 months of excitement wears off. When everything is, high momentum, you've just moved, you're acclimating, and you're learning a language. I didn't speak Hindi. I knew what I learned from Bollywood movies, which isn't much. So you're learning a new language, you're meeting a ton of people every day. There's a meeting, you're in the company of names you grew up watching on screen, but you never thought they could be, numbers in your cell phone. So it's a very dazzling and exciting experience in the beginning. And when you're young, I think that can almost distract from the reality of what's going on here. And after the first 6 months, you start settling into and making a life for yourself here. And this goes for wherever you might move in the world. But let's be honest, India is much more challenging and chaotic than probably anywhere else in the world. And that too, in the most populous city in the country, in the single hardest entertainment industry on earth. So I was asking for, it was like I said, you want to challenge me? Give me every challenge. It's like, give me an insane city and there's noise and pollution and people, the minute you step out, there's 500 people at your doorstep and you don't know where they came from. Give me the hardest industry to crack, and in which I have zero expertise. So it's a lot to take on, first of all, for anybody. But it's especially hard to take on when you have no consistent family members to be in touch with that are close by. And it's really, really hard when you're young and a woman. Oh my God, obviously the ultimate challenge is doing all this while being a woman in India is very difficult, and navigating these spaces and these egos. So what it ends up doing over time is, if you don't regularly check in on yourself, the operating word that describes your experience after that excitement is gone is incredible loneliness. You just become so alone because all you have at the end of the day is your work. Because imagine other people live here and that's not, I mean, they live here and they've made a life here. I moved here for work. So my life became work. And that's not a great feeling to go to sleep with at the end of the night, because that means 100% of your day and your entire existence revolves around, am I going to make it? And I have to make it. So it's all consuming and you forget to have healthy relationships with your friends, with partners. You forget to be in touch. I mean, I think my parents are watching. They know that, like, they know my lows because they know I get out of touch. And that's usually when I'm not doing very well. And I don't know how to confront that emotion with them because obviously they're my parents. So it's hard for me to talk to them about how I'm doing. But that, I think, is the most overwhelming feeling that I went through for the 5 years that I've been here and still go through right now. But my biggest piece of advice, and this is something I'm glad that, you know, if anything has come out of the pandemic, this is one thing I've seen: get a therapist. Like, I'm glad that there's an openness to talking about this and having resources and conversations around this. I cannot recommend therapy enough. And it is not something you go and get if you're a kook. There's no such thing. The happiest people have therapists. Therapists have therapists. So who am I, or who are my parents or anyone else to judge that this is not something that we should be using? We should absolutely be encouraging, especially in huge transition phases of life. Like, you guys are graduating. It's a lot. You're going to be shifting mentally from a very secure place like high school into, you know, kind of charting your own path in college and discovering who you really are and what you want to do with life. That transition phase is very intense. And you're starting from scratch, usually in a school that you didn't grow up with everybody. Until high school, you get to be in the company of all your childhood friends. And then it's kind of like moving to a new country. I actually think it's completely the same. So you have to find new friends. You have to figure out what you want out of your life. There's a lot of pressure about, you know, your first jobs and internships. So therapy is a really great ally to have just in your, you know, it's a great tool to have in your box to get through these big transition phases. And there's no shame in going and getting this help and asking basically to talk to somebody and have them help you navigate this big transition phase. So for me, moving and having all these challenges meant that I wasn't focusing enough on the wholeness of my life. I was so concerned with my career and making sure that it was doing well. I sort of gave up on everything else along the way. It was just make it, do well, succeed, get the paycheck, do this, that. So biggest piece of advice, get therapy. It's awesome. Highly recommend.
Yeah, it's great advice, Lisa. And honestly, I think a lot of the things that you were saying is they're relatable, right? Like, you don't have to be in Bombay pursuing a singing career to feel the same things that you're feeling, like isolation or just this pressure to just like focus on work and not think about everything else in life. So thank you definitely for sharing. I guess let me pause here. This is a very important topic, but just generally with everything that Lisa has shared, wanted to see if anybody had any thoughts, any questions, or anything that they would want to bring up for this forum.
Angel wanted to share some thoughts. I'll put a spotlight here for a minute.
I just wanted to say about mental health, it's such an important topic, and I'm so glad that you brought it up and we're able to speak about it so openly. It's definitely a growing thing in our community to be open about it. I know that I've had my own challenges with mental health without half of the things that Lisa had to deal with. Just being a student in high school was incredibly difficult for me, and I've probably been dealing with my symptoms since the end of middle school. But I wasn't able to get help until the pandemic when I started seeing a therapist. I've been going for almost 3 years now. And I'm currently on antidepressants, which I know is another thing that's really difficult to talk about it, but I just wanted to encourage everyone that if you need help, please don't be afraid to reach out. I know support can be difficult at times, when certain beliefs persist, but it's definitely possible to get better. I'm doing so much better than I ever could have imagined. And it's all because I was able to reach out and get the support that I needed.
And I'm glad that you shared that, of course. And, kudos to your parents for having that openness and willingness to even allow you to say it here on this forum publicly. So, that's just great parenting and, good for you as well to just have the courage to speak out about it out loud. That's amazing. And I'm rooting for you. And 3 years is amazing. That's like inspiring to me. I just started. I took a break and just started again. So I got to get back on the wagon.
Yeah, therapy is amazing. Highly recommend.
10 on 10.
We learned a lot from her, honestly. We were that set of parents that did not really understand that they needed this, and we eventually did. And now, I would just say, parents, look out for the children. And it's such when children go from one stage to the next, they need that kind of support these days more than being around playing with them and stuff like that. They really need the support in the mental space these days.
Yeah.
And I'll share my thoughts as well. It was not easy at all. No idea. Was just get around it and get over it.
I think there's something maybe blocking the mic.
Yeah, it should be better now.
Yes.
Just my thoughts. The way we were brought up was when we talk about this kind of situation, our parents would say it's just a mind thing, just get over it, right? It's never the realization. So the biggest learning we had, and we couldn't support her maybe when she needed us the most, because we thought we couldn't understand this aspect of this is not just a you just tell yourself get over it kind of a thing. This has got chemistry, this has got biology, how your body works, how the hormones work. There's a lot to it which we don't necessarily understand. So for us to learn that and support her at that time wasn't an easy path. But then now we realize that many parents have come out and shared with us saying, hey, my child is having struggles, how to find a therapist and so on. So that is something we all need to confront. We all need to openly discuss. And like we said, right, it's a village that it takes to create this community. And we all should be open about sharing these thoughts. To me, the biggest change that has happened in my mind is the redefinition of what I would call success. We all grow up thinking that our children should get great jobs, get good money, and have fancy titles and so on. And the last 3 years has shocked me so much that I changed that whole concept of success. And today I say she should be happy. There's no more ifs and buts around that, and that's it, right? And that has been the biggest change in my mind. And the moment I switched that, I realized that I wouldn't talk to her about, did you do this or did you do that? Did you accomplish this or that and so on? And I stopped completely on that track. And the only thing I'm asking her is, are you feeling okay? Are you happy? And that's it. And hopefully this is a message that all parents can relate to and understand. And maybe that's what we should practice first.
I also, one thing we don't realize, and this is a very big difference in my generation and yours, is that I had the tools to understand to a degree and compartmentalize what the pandemic was. You guys were in school and you woke up and you were not allowed to see your friends the next day. That's horrifying. So it was like your routine of school was broken, your routine of socializing was broken. What is the concept of studying from home? I get work from home and being a self-starter because being a generation older than you, I have the tools to understand how to be self-starter and, complete my tasks on time. But telling a high school student or a middle school student, hey, as of tomorrow, you're going to teach yourself how to accomplish everything and finish your homework is absurd. So the biggest hats off to this generation and this year of graduates, because you guys got through the single most difficult challenge of the entire world at the hardest transition phase of your life. So it takes a lot of grit and it takes a lot of self-belief to get through that path, get through that part of life. And you are examples for us. We're learning from your generation. So I don't want to patronize or belittle their experience, because you have a lot to offer us in terms of, you know, knowledge about how to get through something like that. You guys are really the warriors that push through. That's amazing. So, I mean, one thing is, of course, great that we're having this conversation about mental health, but also as parents, as siblings, as people who are older, we need to really give these guys credit for getting through this thing the way that they did, with as few resources as they had at the age that they were. So that's really what's impressive to me, is this generation and this year of graduates and the next few that are coming up. Wow, just we're learning so much from watching you guys and your resilience.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience has a thought or a question for Lisa? Please use this time to.
Okay. I can cut in if that's okay. Hi, I'm Aravia. I'm Angel's sister. I'm calling in from Atlanta, from Georgia Tech. First, congratulations to all the graduates, of course, and thanks so much, Lisa, for coming on, especially talking about this mental health. One thing which I wanted to add here is, especially in terms of therapy and thinking about mental health, even if you feel like you're doing okay, and frankly, I did for a long time, it's still worth thinking about therapy. It's still worth going to therapy. And this goes for, frankly, I think my strong opinion is that everyone should have a therapist. It's not just about, you know, if you have things like anxiety and depression, of course, those are important, but it can include a lot more than that, including how can you get the most out of your life? How can you best work towards your goals? How can you create your goals properly? I know for the longest time, and, you know, including now, I'm still working towards this. I didn't have concrete goals about what I wanted to do, where I wanted to end up, what kinds of things I wanted in my life. I was more or less following the school path, following whatever ended up seeming right, and not really making intentional decisions. And going to therapy helped me learn some of the vocabulary, some of the tools I need to really think about what am I feeling and how does that relate to what actions I want to take. So it's really useful if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you're not sure where you want to be, what you want to do, or even if you're feeling like you don't care which way you go, whatever is fine. It's a really good way to bring some intentionality into your life. So definitely recommend that to everyone, parents, kids alike, anyone who feels like they could get more out of life. This is a great way to do it. Even if you're not sure how to do it, even if you don't think you have the time or the energy or the space, therapy is a good place to learn how to add those things into your life as well.
Absolutely. And one thing I should have mentioned, which actually thanks to my sister, I learned this, therapy, guys, is free in college. So really take advantage of that and take advantage of having that resource available to you. And even if you, I mean, of course, go there when you're not doing well, but even if you just want to go and do a test run in the very beginning, this person can really become an excellent coach and tool for you for the next 4 years of college, if you are pursuing college. And obviously, if you're doing an independent career track that's not in college, again, there's incredible resources online to find great therapists. Like there's so many apps that you can locate one near you, or you can do virtual sessions. But definitely for people that are going to college, I highly recommend starting off with your campus therapist. It will do wonders, and it will make you feel a little comfortable about the concept overall. And it's free.
Thanks so much, Lisa, and thank you so much for all the comments. I guess let me just pause here for maybe taking 1 or 2 more questions, just depending on time. Lisa, again, thank you for staying on a little longer, but we'll try to close out with 1 or 2 other questions.
Anybody else from the audience? Would you like to share your thought or ask a question of Lisa?
Yeah, you guys are welcome to ask me about anything leading up to your big transition now that you're graduates. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, by the way, feel free to reach out to me on DM.
I would like to share something. Thanks, Lisa, for starting this. It's definitely a very big thing. It's not only college, in school also, you have counselors and you have guidance, and you can go and talk. And most of the time in our community, since we are first generation and we don't know how to talk and we don't want to share anything with our friends or in our community, most parents, this thing is like a stigma. So we should not think it as a stigma. It's like parents often have very mixed feelings about this, and when their child is diagnosed or anything, they really go in a different way. It's your child has been diagnosed and you have to just try to educate yourself and educate your child. Is they can talk to the school counselors. They can take in college. Yeah, I know it is free and everything. In school also, when the counselors are telling the parents, I had noticed that mostly the Indian community, they get very upset that no, my child is good, he's happy playing. Yes, they are doing everything, but it's don't get upset with the counselor. They are trying to help and they are there to help. They're getting paid to help. So it's always very good. And I deal with elementary kids. I've known how they are and how they talk. It's not showing that they are depressed or they are thinking anything. They're happy with their friends and everything, but there's so many things going on inside. And high school counselors also, they're not only giving there to give you recommendation or tell you AP class or honors, they're there to also talk. They are there to help you. And so we should not think it's like a stigma and anything, and just go talk, open up.
Thank you. Chandrapa, you had a question.
No, I just, hi Lisa, it's so nice to see you here. My question was that I totally 100% agree with the therapy. I am 10 years older than Nagesh, etc. So my children went through, and being a nurse, it helped me because I have seen AP students or all students, they came to mental health because I was a nurse in psychiatrics for a few years. So I'm totally 100% agree with all this, what you are bringing. And this was like 20 years back. I think two of my children 20 years back graduated and one graduated in 2012. So 2008 high school. So even if I'm older, I agreed because of my profession. Otherwise, everybody said, what are you talking? Your children have gone to Ivy League. Luckily or unluckily, 3 of them have gone. I said, no, they do have problems. They're playing sports, they're valedictorian, but still I knew, and that really helped me to survive the period, hopefully. And we parents have to learn. I learned 20 years back, but I kept quiet because there were people, they thought I'm crazy. I should go to a therapist. But luckily that my nursing helped me, and I supported them. And hopefully we parents should learn. And me as a grandmother now, I must learn. And what you said, Lisa, these kids who just graduated, I mean, I give them a lot of credit, like you said. They didn't have any tools. All of a sudden, they're friendless. Or they're sitting at home and reading from the computer. So I'm very much for it. And wherever it's possible, I try to advocate for that, even if they think that I'm a little crazy and talkative, but that's okay. I am for you children. And what else can I say? Only one question. I had a funny question for you. I couldn't ask. When you came to Chicago from Barampura, Bhubaneswar, did you have any problem with when you were younger, 6 years? Because my daughter had biggest problem. She could not tie her shoelace because in India, they didn't have sneakers at that time. Of course, it was
we had the half shoes.
that's bata shoes. So,
Yeah.
I'll get called from the teacher. She's in rocket. She's doing so well, but she doesn't know how to tie the shoes. Teach her like rabbit ear. And we used to live in Hoffman Estate. We were also in Chicago. So I was just reminiscing that, but you are much younger than her. But anyway, I must stop because I'm notorious for talkative person. But
we love it.
I'm so proud of you. I mean, really, the way what you did. I know your mom a little bit, but now I really saw you. So I mean, children just grab it. And one thing I must tell the children, our children are all willing to help you all. I mean, even if they're not personally, you just say, Chandra aunty, I want to talk to Sanjay because he went to Harvard or wherever, and they are very helpful. They want to communicate with you guys, not because my son or anything. They said, Mom, give them our address, email address or whatever. So what I'm trying to tell you guys have a lot of people, they're everywhere. So just reach out from the OSA directory or from your mom or anything. But they don't want to go through as our children. They want to go through like Saswat sent to Sanjay, my son. I'm just telling like that, and that or whatever, So Lisa, not through Kanaka, but Lisa or whoever. That much, I think that is the complaint. Mom, why you are saying, let them reach out. They are 18. So I'm just giving
Totally.
just a little.
I really mean it when I say my DMs are open. So if you're going through anything, in like anything I've discussed that you would want to talk about more, just let me know. I'm an open book.
Okay, thank you. That's what that was my only suggestion, not even advice. I learned it. So again, congratulations, and I'll be sitting here, but I'll keep my mouth shut this time. I had my fair share twice.
I guess I think Lisa is still on. Just wanted to use this time also to say thank you again for taking the time to join and to address all the questions from everyone in the group.
Yes, thank you. And I just, before I go, I'd love to see you guys at the OSA convention this summer. We're hosting it in my hometown in Chicago. So if you are there, I will be there. I will be coming home, and I'm going to be performing. So I can't wait to interact with you guys in person if you are coming. And if you haven't yet made the decision, make the decision.
Gyanabhai is here. He would be so proud that you're advertising for the convention. So,
I got a text from my dad, guys. I still have to answer to my parents.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa. We'll stay on for another 5 minutes and then close. Gyanabhai is here. I'll request Gyanabhai to speak a few words. I don't know if you can come on camera, Gyanabhai.
I think I'm in camera. Can't you see me?
Okay. Now, yes. Now we can. Yes.
Yes or no?
Now, no. You have to turn it on.
Okay.
Yeah, now we can see.
Okay. Okay. Let me start with a Santi mantra. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukhavag bhave. ମୁଁ ବହୁତ ଖୁସି ଯେ ଆଜି ଆମର ନ୍ୟୁୟର୍କ ନ୍ୟୁ ଜର୍ସି ଆଉ ପେନସିଲଭାନିଆ ଚାପ୍ଟର ଏ ଯୋଉ ଗ୍ରାଜୁଏସନ ସେଲିବ୍ରେଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଏଇଟା ତ ଏଇ ବର୍ଷ ସେମାନେ ପ୍ରଥମ ଥର ପାଇଁ କରୁନାହାନ୍ତି ଏଟା ତୃତୀୟ ବର୍ଷ I congratulate all the graduates. I congratulate all the parents. I also thank Rajesh inviting me to come and give a few words here. जो पिला माने मु देखुची बर्तन around 25 or more in this list graduating. Sky is the limit for you guys. Go achieve what you can. Everything is open for you. ମୋ ମନରେ ବହୁତ ଗର୍ବ ଆସୁଛି ଯେ ଆମ ପିଲାମାନେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଗ୍ରାଜୁଏଟ ହଉଛନ୍ତି ନୂଆ ଲାଇଫ ଏଣ୍ଟର କରିବେ ନୂଆ କ୍ୟାରିୟର ଚୁଜ କରିବେ go for it. The limit is sky. ତମକୁ କିଛି ପ୍ରତିବନ୍ଧକ ନାହିଁ ହାଇ ସ୍କୁଲ ପିଲାମାନେ ମୁଁ ଦେଖିଲି around 15 or something graduating ତୁମେ ମାନେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ପ୍ୟାରେଣ୍ଟାଲ ଗାଇଡାନ୍ସ ଆଉ ରହିବନି ତୁମେ ମାନେ ଡର୍ମରେ ରହିବ ବାହାରେ ରହିବ ତେଣୁ try how to lead one independent life ଯୋଉଟା କି without getting into trouble. ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ଏତିକିରେ କହିବି ଯେ ଆମର ପିଲାମାନେ ସବୁ ଗ୍ରାଜୁଏଟ ହଉଛନ୍ତି ଫ୍ୟୁଚର କ୍ୟାରିୟର ଚୁଜ କରୁଛନ୍ତି proud about us, proud about our community, be proud about Odia language, Odia culture, Odia heritage, Odia festival. ଏଇଗୁଡାକ ହଉଛି ସବୁ ଆମର ନିଜସ୍ୱ ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ କମ୍ପେୟାର କରିବା ଆମର ଏଇ ସବୁ କଲଚର ଆମର ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ କୁ ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ଣ୍ଣ କଲଚର ସହିତ you'll be very proud because ଆମକୁ it teaches us love, it teaches us universalism, it teaches us respect. ମନରେ ବହୁତ ଗର୍ବ ଆସିବ ଏଥିପାଇଁ ମୁଁ ଦେଖିଲି ଯେ ରାଜେଶ ପଠେଇଥିଲେ ଯେ 11 ଜଣ ନୂଆ ମେମ୍ବର ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆମର ଓଡିଶା ସୋସାଇଟିର ମେମ୍ବର ହେବାକୁ ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି କଂଗ୍ରାଚୁଲେସନ୍ସ ଟୁ ଦେମ୍ କିନ୍ତୁ ମୋର ଗୋଟିଏ ରିକ୍ୱେଷ୍ଟ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ଯେ be cultural ambassador of Odisha. preach our culture, preach our value, be proud, don't be indifferent, don't stay under the shadow of a parents. Please come out, be a proud Odia. Eita hala mor samastinge request. I hope you are not going to disappoint me. I will conclude with one of the just a comment of Swami Shivanand Maharaj. Be good, do good. Namaskar.
Thank you, Ganaway. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us and talking to our
Chinmaya
graduates.
mission re amar aji graduation hochi, graduating class asichi attend kariya.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We just have 2 more minutes. Open house. Anybody would like to share any thoughts? Lisa is kindly she's here. Any thoughts? Please do, because we've been so far on time, so that has been very good.
Nagesh.
Yeah.
And the
Go
other Lisa. Okay. Hi, Lisa. So this is Lisa Auntie. Yeah, I heard you in OSA singing the national anthem. I was a fan of you. You had my name, so I was definitely like, oh.
I win by default.
No, I cannot wait to ask you Bollywood fan moments. Now tell me, who all did you meet? And
Gosh.
no, maybe few of them.
I think at this time, I've now met everybody except the biggest, and I don't know how I would react if I was in the presence of Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah,
but
that's what I wanted to ask.
That's I know that's, as NRIs, we're really like, nobody else matters. It's all about Shah Rukh. But I've not yet met Shah Rukh Khan, but we've met everybody else at this point, or have done their films or sung in their movies. And you get used to it strangely, but I do not think I will ever get that, I wouldn't be comfortable if I was around that person. I would go back to being 6 years old and watching Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. So I doubt I will be able to keep my cool if I ever meet Shah Rukh Khan. But everyone else I've met, I think the most recent person I met was someone who has long been on my checklist was A.R. Rahman sir. And
Oh, wow.
that was amazing for me. Just even to have that time and that interaction with him, I felt, really in the presence of a god. So I think for me, that was probably the highlight of the last 5 years in terms of, interacting with somebody of that level. I really only think it's him and Shah Rukh.
What about Amitabh Bachchan?
No, not yet. But I think that's a question for my dad. If I met
Yeah, I know.
and my dad wasn't around, he'd be pretty upset.
Okay, thank you, dear. Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we just finished the time, so let's go ahead and close. And we will, Lisa, thank you so much. It was so wonderful having you here, and I'm pretty sure this conversation is going to spark more conversations within our community. We do want to have this conversation with parents, with children, with the younger generation, and see how we should act on it. So thank you for kicking it off for us in that sense. Rima, over to you. You can put on the closing remarks and we'll close.
Yeah, don't have much more to add. I feel like this was a really good discussion across the board with the celebrations and the topics that you raised, Lisa. So thank you again for taking the time. Again, if anybody has any questions after this or wants to say some more congrats to the graduates, please feel free to put it in the chat. And thank you again for yet another year.
Thank you, Rima, for hosting. This was awesome. Thanks everybody who was involved in making sure this could happen. And hopefully we can see wow. Hopefully we can all see each other this summer at the OSA convention in Chicago.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You have a good night.
From my dad that money has been deposited in my account.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Rima.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Let's go ahead and close, and we'll meet again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I want to say something at the last.